Hello friends, it's Allison, and I'm so excited to be up on the Alex Syberia Designs YouTube channel today. I'm going to be making a shaker card today, and that's because for the month of August, Alex Syberia Designs has started an inspiration challenge. You can also use the beautiful colors you see on this image, but I'm going to attach a link to the actual inspiration blog post below, so I definitely encourage you to go to that link and find out all the details so that you can participate in the challenge. So here is the cute little shaker card that we are going to be making today. And I am going to jump right in by showing you the products I'll be using. So to start with, we'll be using the Sunrays Hot Foil plate. I love this plate so much. Then we're going to use the Falala Friends stamp set and matching die set. This is from the recent release. And the Christmas sentiment stamp set and matching die set as well. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with our hot foiling. So I'm going to take my hot foil plate. I have this crazy holographic foil that I'll be using today. And I'm waiting for my glimmer machine to heat up, and there goes the green light, so we're ready to go. I'm going to place my hot foil plate right down on the machine. My foil will go face down, and then I will place a smooth piece of white cardstock on top. Now I'm coming in with my shims, and you'll see that my clear shims, there's a piece of paper in between my shims. I usually use an extra shim. You don't need to. I think this plate really doesn't need an extra shim. That's just how my shims are. I always have this piece of paper in between. So now the green light had stopped flashing and we were ready to run it through the die cutting machine, and let's see what we get. So perfect foiling, you can see the funny disco ball in the middle. We're going to cover that up, but I use that foil because I really wanted as much shine and sparkle on those thin lines as I could get. So now we're going to make this super simple shaker mechanism. I have a piece of plastic packaging. This is just from a stamp set or a die set or, whatever your products come packaged in. And I'm going to put Scor-Tape along the back of my panel that we just foiled. And I had cut the piece of plastic packaging to be just slightly larger than this panel. And what we're making today is what some people call an infinity shaker or a full shaker panel. Whatever you want to call it, it's just about the easiest shaker that you can make. So I'm starting with one side, and I took the release paper off the tape. And I'm just carefully folding over that plastic so it's nice and straight along that edge. And then we will flip it around and do the same on the other side. I always start with my two sides first. So here goes the second side. And then when I flip it over to do the bottom or the top, whatever you want to call it, in this case it's actually one of the sides, I snip the corners of the packaging at an angle. And then what I do is I come in with a couple other tiny pieces of tape to cover up the packaging that is from the side. When I've taped the sides of the packaging on, now I'm just putting tape on top of that packaging so that my corners just have another place to stick. So now I can pull this whole corner down, and again the corners are sticking nicely because I just added that extra tape, and I'll show you what a nice clean edge you get when you do that. So now we're ready to fill this shaker. So today I'm going to be using shaved ice. This is one of my favorite things to use for winter shakers to give the illusion of ice or snow. I think shaved ice it might be discontinued now, but a really great substitute is Distress Mica Flakes, and I'll link to that below. Right here you saw me add in some Distress glitter. This is the rock candy glitter, just to add a little bit more shine and a little bit of a different texture. So now that I'm happy with how many shaker bits I have in there, it's time to seal that final side. And again, I'm coming in with those 2 small pieces of Scor-Tape. And then we can seal everything up and nothing is going to come out. And there we go. So now I am going to glue this to my card base. I again put Scor-Tape around all the edges and then a little bit of glue in the middle. And I can just attach this to the card base. So here's this adorable little bunny from the Falala Friends. I have colored it off camera with my Olo markers and I cut it out with the matching die. So what I'm coming in now to do is I'm just freehanding this. I wanted to create a snowbank. So I wanted the bunny to be skating on the ice, which is the shaker part. And I wanted to create this snowbank. So I'm just kind of playing around with different shapes. And again, I'm just doing this by hand. And ultimately, I decided to use the other side of that piece I had cut. And that's the final shape that I'm going with. So now I am ink blending the edge of that shape just to give it a little bit of, not dimension, but just a little bit of detail. And now I'm going to give it a little bit more detail by, I'm just going to swipe my embossing ink pad along the edge, and then I'm going to put this really sparkly glitter embossing powder along the edge. And because this is glitter embossing powder, when I start heating it up, I'm going to start heating it from the underside, because if you come up from the top, some of that glitter will just start flying away and get on everything. So it's best to start from the bottom, and then when it's mostly dry, you can come in and finish it from the top. So hopefully you can see some of that sparkle, but I think it just gives a nice defined edge to this snowbank. So now I can glue it onto the panel, and remember this is packaging that I'm attaching it to, so I'm going to put some acrylic blocks on top. And while that's drying, I'm going to stamp out some sentiments. So again, this is from the Christmas sentiment set, and I like to stamp out a bunch of sentiments at once. So here I am stamping, and I'm using my grip mat from Waffle Flower to hold my paper in place, and you can see the paper doesn't shift as I'm stamping, more than once. There's just a few spots of the stamping that I'm just trying to get nice and perfect. And I'm using black pigment ink, and that's because I'm going to emboss with some clear embossing powder. And once that is done, I can come in and heat it up with my heat gun. So now I have a bunch of sentiments ready to go for future cards, and I'm going to cut those out with the matching dies. So before I do final assembly, I realized my bunny didn't have mittens. I had forgotten to color them. So we don't want him to be cold. So I'm coming in with my Olo markers and just finishing that up. And you can see the 2 sentiments that I picked for the card, the Merry and the Christmas. And now I'm just kind of doing final positioning here. So you'll also see I had stamped some snowflakes on that snowbank, and I wasn't crazy about it. So I stamped them again in a light blue ink, and I cut them out with the matching dies. I love how these little snowflakes have matching dies. So here I am just covering up the ones that I had stamped directly onto the panel before. So now for my bunny, I want him popped up a little bit, but for the top of the bunny, I'm using these thin foam squares, and for the bottom, I used regular foam tape. And I wanted the 2 different levels of foam because part of him is going to be popped up on that snowbank. So because it was an uneven, the level was uneven where I was putting him, that's why I have 2 different heights of foam tape that I'm using. So again, I remember how I said I was going to cover that disco ball. So he is covering up the rest of that disco ball so you don't see it. But you can still see the beautiful shine from that hot foil plate, especially as you shake the shaker around and some of the shaker bits fall to the bottom. then you can really see those beautiful lines of the Sunray foil plate. So now I am just gluing on my sentiments, and I had doubled these sentiments up. I had cut them out of white cardstock and layered them up. So that's 2 layers of cardstock right there. And I'm coming in with my T-square ruler just to make sure those sentiments are nice and straight. And for one final detail, I'm just coming in with my white gel pen, and I'm adding a few highlights to the bunny and mainly on the scarf. And that is it for the card. And with shaker cards, I always love to shake it for you. So there it is. I really love this card. I think that bunny is so adorable. As I said before, there is a new monthly challenge. So again, click on the link in the description below to get to the blog post. And I hope that you all participate. I love inspiration challenges. I think it's especially great when you're not feeling especially creative and you just need a prompt. That is it for me today. I really appreciate you joining us. I will actually see you again in a few weeks with another card. In the meantime, if you liked the video, please give a thumbs up and leave some comments. And all products that I use will be linked below. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.